G'day. As you can see, I've started making the air filter housing. I was going to fold this up out of steel, but I went to an aluminium place today and they had this nice piece of box section aluminium. Cost me $10 for half a metre of it, which I suppose is okay. The guy reckons it would be 16 if it was on a discount, but anyway. What I've done here is I've used the old airbox plate to act as a template, so I can cut out both of the openings for the inlets and drill. And I had to buy a long drill so I can drill right through the box to put big bolts to hold the whole thing onto the front of the carburetors. Now I've cut it at an angle. Hang on, I'll show you when it's on. See, it fits on like that. There are actually 4 long M6 screws that screw into the front of the carburetors. That will work quite nicely. As you see, I've slash cut the front end here, and what I'm going to do is I've drilled 8 holes into the sides, and I will be running around at this line here and putting a groove with with one of those fine cutting blades. Then when I slit out the corners, I should be able to neatly fold it all up, and that should enable me to then rivet or screw it onto this piece. So then it will fit neatly like that, which according to my calculations should both fit under the bonnet and nose cone, and should look pretty nifty. It'll do the job quite nicely. I can get a nicer looking pod than this one, but I might not do that, or at least not straight away, because as they often say, you know, money's too tight to mention. There we go, the groove is cut all the way around. Now I just have to carefully go around and cut all the corners out of that. Then I should be able to fold it up nicely. Well, that's the corners cut out. Now I should be able to just use the vise to carefully fold those out. And that'll form the mounting flanges for the air pod. Well, there we go. The air filter pod mounted on the front of the I don't know what to call it, a plenum, I suppose. And it's ready to roll. According to my measurements, it should all fit underneath the bonnet. But worst case scenario is I can put an extension hose and move the actual pod filter a bit further forward. So that should do the job. All I have to do now is make an end cap for the end there. See how it's all open? I've actually dropped my distributor body off at a machine shop, and I shall be going in tomorrow morning to pick it up, and that should be ready to go. Well, I got the distributor housing back from the machine shop, and the first thing to do is to see how much engagement I've got, because I'm going to have to adjust how far in the spigot goes, which means a little bit of work. And I've just tried it, and it doesn't go in far enough to actually engage with the cam. I've now modified the Morris spigot so it should seep deeper into the adapted Nissan spigot. Hopefully it'll be enough to give me proper engagement. Well, I've now fully seated in the Morris spigot into the Nissan housing, and the drive dog's got good engagement, and I'm really happy with that. Just a matter of getting out my trusty plastic putty now, and there we have the distributor on with a cap. Looks the business. I've yet to put the electronic ignition kit in it yet, but it looks like it's going to work. I'm well impressed with that. My brother has ordered me a top entry cap, but I think that the side entry cap is probably going to work better, just in terms of making the leads fit. That's going to be a bit tight for all of those. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I can make it work. Looks the business. There's the housing, and I've packed it with epoxy putty. Not that it needs it for locating the internal spigot because it's pretty tight, but it doesn't hurt. And when we turn it over, you can see I filled in all the gaps around the spigot, just to sort of help make it as oil tight as possible. Not that there'll be much more than just splash lubrication sort of running around there, but that should work nicely, and that should see me ready to install the distributor once I get to, once that's had a chance to set rather. Coming along. And while I'm at it, I'll show off the air filter housing that I've made. It takes the standard pod filter, which I think will fit underneath the bonnet. If it doesn't, and it's going to be a close run thing, I'll just put an extension hose, some of that blue silicone hose on it, and put it a bit further down into the nose cone. But that should work okay. It even looks vaguely like a fuel injected plenum. Okay, I've made an end cap to go into the intake, what do I call it, receiver? I don't know. The intake chamber that goes onto the front of the carburetors. I've made an end cap. I'm just going to show how it fits. I'm going to seal up the end cap with some of this grey silicone gasket material. Yeah, the end cap fits in. Now, if I was able to weld aluminium, I would have welded this in, but as it is, I've cut a section out of the 75 by 75 mil square tube and made it sort of slot in. It'll be screwed through the outside underneath and through the top of the actual tube from above. That way it should be nice and neat and tidy. There we go, all nicely sealed at the end, and you won't see the overlap underneath, so that'll look neat and tidy. Alright, the next day again, I got the distributor all mounted up, and then I discovered that the plug leads for two of the cylinders, the two back ones, are just not going to be long enough. Bit of a pain. Well, I looked into buying some second-hand N15 plug leads because, you know, then I can shorten a couple of the longer ones to fit. But that would have cost me about 20 bucks for some old second-hand leads that might be a bit manky and crappy. So I've bought a universal lead kit that's meant for vintage cars. It's got like cloth coloured cable on it that will look sort of swanky, and that's not going to arrive till the 1st of May, which is only a couple of days away really, and then I'll be able to get this thing going. I'm also looking at getting a piece of silicone joining hose so I can run the air cleaner down in front of the block, well out of the way, because I've got an awful feeling that it's going to foul on the bonnet or the nose cone. Anyway, that's all for this little video. It's making progress.